I accidentally discovered my fiancé had $180,000 in savings, after she spent 2 years telling me we couldn't afford a wedding. I never thought checking our mailbox would change my entire life. It was supposed to be an ordinary Tuesday. I got home from work around 6, exhausted after another 10-hour shift. The first thing I noticed was Olivia sitting on the couch with her laptop. She smiled the second I walked in. "Hey, babe. You look tired." "I am." She stood up, kissed my cheek, and asked the same question she asked almost every evening. "Did they approve your overtime?" I nodded. "Yeah. Good." Her smile got bigger. "That's great." At the time, I thought she was happy because we were finally getting closer to our dream. Now I know she was happy for a completely different reason. Olivia and I had been engaged for almost 2 years. Every time I brought up actually getting married, she had the same answer. "We can't afford it. I want our wedding to be perfect. I don't want to rush." At first, that sounded reasonable. Neither of us came from wealthy families. I worked as a project manager for a construction company. She worked remotely in marketing. Together, we made decent money. Not rich, but comfortable. Still, every conversation about the wedding somehow ended with me picking up more work. "If we save another 6 months, if you can work a little more overtime, if we wait until next year." There was always another reason, another delay, another excuse. And because I loved her, I believed every word. Over the next 2 years, I changed almost everything about my life. I sold my motorcycle, canceled 2 vacations, stopped eating out, worked weekends, accepted every overtime shift my boss offered. Sometimes, I'd leave home before sunrise and return after dark. Olivia always felt guilty. Or at least, she pretended to. "You don't have to work this hard." "I know. But I want us to have the wedding you deserve." She'd hug me, tell me she appreciated everything, tell me we'd both enjoy it one day. Looking back, those hugs feel completely different now. One Friday night, Marcus invited me out for drinks. "You've disappeared, man." "I've been busy." "No. You've been working yourself to death." I laughed. "Temporary. I'm almost there." "There where?" "The wedding fund." Marcus looked at me for a second. "How much do you have saved?" "About 40,000. He nearly choked on his drink. 40? Yeah. And how much does Olivia have? I shrugged. I don't know. We don't really talk numbers. Marcus frowned. You've been engaged for 2 years. You don't know how much money your fiancé has. I thought about it. Honestly, I didn't. We had separate bank accounts. We split groceries, split utilities. But she'd always insisted we each manage our own savings. I never questioned it. Maybe I should have. The next morning, I found Olivia scrolling through luxury wedding venues. This place is beautiful. I looked at the price. $65,000. She sighed dramatically. I know. It's impossible. Maybe one day. I smiled. We'll get there. She smiled back. I know we will. Then she closed the laptop almost immediately, as if she didn't want me looking too closely. A few days later, something strange happened. I got home early because one of our client meetings had been canceled. Olivia wasn't home yet. I checked the mailbox before going inside. There were the usual bills, advertisements, a couple of magazines, and one envelope. It had Olivia's name on it. Normally, I wouldn't have paid attention. But one thing caught my eye. The return address. Harrison Private Banking. That surprised me. We didn't bank there. At least, I didn't. I placed the envelope on the kitchen counter and forgot about it. An hour later, Olivia came home. The second she saw it, her entire expression changed. She grabbed the envelope so quickly, it almost looked rehearsed. Oh, just junk mail. She shoved it into her purse without opening it. Not the trash. Her purse. That was odd. Very odd. That night I couldn't sleep. Something about her reaction didn't make sense. Why would someone hide junk mail? The next morning, she left early for a dentist appointment. At least, that's what she told me. Around lunchtime, she called. I forgot my laptop. Can you bring it? Sure. When I arrived at her apartment office downtown, the receptionist smiled. She's in a meeting. You can leave it here. As I turned around, I noticed Olivia walking through the lobby. She wasn't alone. She was laughing with another woman from her office. Neither of them had dental appointment bags. Neither of them looked like they'd been anywhere near a dentist. Then I heard the other woman say something that made me stop walking. So, did your transfer finally go through? Olivia grinned. Yep. They moved the full $180,000 yesterday. I froze. 180,000. Transfer. What transfer? Because unless I'd completely lost my mind, the woman I'd spent 2 years killing myself to support had just casually admitted she had $180,000. And suddenly, nothing about the last 2 years made sense anymore. For the rest of that day, I couldn't focus on work. Every email I opened looked like random words. Every meeting felt like background noise. All I could hear was Olivia's voice. They moved the full $180,000 yesterday. Over. And over. And over again. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe they were talking about a company account. Maybe it wasn't her money. I spent the entire drive home trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. But deep down, I already knew. That evening, Olivia was in an unusually good mood. She ordered takeout from my favorite restaurant, poured me a glass of wine, even suggested we watch a movie together. She almost looked relieved. So, she smiled. How was work? Busy. I dropped off your laptop. Oh, thanks. She didn't even mention the fake dentist appointment. Not once. Instead, she leaned against me. I've been thinking. Maybe next spring would be the perfect time for the wedding. I looked at her. Really? She nodded enthusiastically. I think we'll finally be ready. Ready? According to what she'd told me. We were still struggling financially. So what had suddenly changed? I smiled. That sounds nice. Inside, nothing felt nice anymore. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I looked through our financial folder. Not because I wanted to invade her privacy. Because I needed to know whether I'd somehow missed something obvious. There wasn't much. Utility bills. Insurance papers. Our apartment lease. A few tax documents. Then I noticed something strange. Olivia's tax return wasn't there. Neither was last year's. I clearly remembered helping her organize everything. She always kept copies. Now, they were gone. Later that afternoon, Marcus called. You sound terrible. I didn't sleep. What happened? I hesitated. Then I told him everything. The banking envelope. The fake dentist appointment. The conversation I'd overheard. There was a long silence. Finally, he asked one question. Have you ever actually seen her savings account? No. Has she ever shown you a bank statement? No. Do you know what bank she uses? I stopped walking. No. Marcus sighed. Dude. You've been engaged for 2 years. You know less about her finances than I know about mine. He wasn't wrong. And somehow, that scared me even more. That weekend, Olivia suggested we meet her parents for dinner. I almost said no. Instead, I went. Everything felt normal. Too normal. Her dad asked about work. Her mom talked about gardening. Olivia laughed at all the right moments. Then her mother smiled. So, have you two finally picked the wedding venue? Before I could answer, Olivia jumped in. Not yet. We're still saving. Her mother looked surprised. I thought. Olivia interrupted her with a quick look. A look that lasted less than a second. But I saw it. Her mother immediately changed the subject. My stomach tightened. What exactly had she almost said? Driving home, I couldn't stop thinking about that moment. Olivia turned up the music. Started talking about honeymoon destinations. Almost like she was trying to distract me. Maybe she was. 3 days later, I got another surprise. My boss called me into his office. I've got good news. You've earned a promotion. I couldn't believe it. It came with a significant raise. Nearly $25,000 more per year. I called Olivia immediately. I got promoted. She screamed with excitement. Oh my God. I'm so proud of you. Then, almost immediately, she asked, so, does that mean you'll still be able to cover the wedding photographer? Not. Congratulations. Not. You deserve it. The first thing she thought about was another expense. That conversation stayed with me all night. A week later, I came home earlier than expected. Olivia was in the shower. Her laptop was open on the dining table. I wasn't planning to look. Honestly. Then, a notification appeared in the corner of the screen. Property Finder. Your saved listing has been updated. Without thinking, I glanced at it. A luxury condominium. 2 bedrooms. Downtown. Price. $742,000. Below the listing was a calculator. Down payment available, $180,000. My heartbeat slowed. Then almost stopped. She wasn't just saving money. She already knew exactly what she wanted to buy. I clicked nothing. Touched nothing. I simply stared. A second notification appeared. This one from a messaging app. Emily. Once you're married, it'll be so much easier. Another message appeared before I could look away. Just don't tell Daniel about the account yet. Footsteps. The shower had stopped. I quickly stepped away from the table. A second later, Olivia walked into the room, drying her hair with a towel. She smiled. You got home early. Yeah. She kissed my cheek. I missed you. For the first time since we'd met. I didn't kiss her back. Because I had a feeling. The biggest lie wasn't the secret savings account. It was whatever she planned to do after we got married. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same 2 messages. Once you're married, it'll be so much easier. And, just don't tell Daniel about the account yet. Those weren't random comments. They were part of a plan. The question was, what kind of plan? The next morning, Olivia acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee. She kissed me goodbye before leaving for work. I love you. Those 3 words used to mean everything to me. Now, they sounded rehearsed. I decided to do something I'd been avoiding. I called Emily. Not directly. Her company had recently hired my construction firm for a renovation project. I used that as an excuse. She answered cheerfully. Daniel, what's up? We talked about work for a few minutes. Then I casually asked, So, how's Olivia doing? Emily laughed. Oh, she's excited. For the wedding. There was a brief pause. Yeah. She sounded nervous. Too nervous. Before hanging up, she accidentally said something that made my stomach drop. She's lucky you don't ask too many questions. Silence. Then she realized what she'd said. I mean, never mind. She ended the call almost immediately. That afternoon, I met Marcus for lunch. I told him everything. He sat quietly until I finished. Finally, he leaned back. You know what bothers me the most? What? It's not the money. It's the secrecy. If she honestly wanted financial security, she'd tell you. But she's hiding it. And people only hide things when they know they wouldn't survive daylight. I nodded slowly. He was right. That weekend, Olivia wanted to tour another wedding venue. This one overlooked the lake. The coordinator showed us crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers, a ballroom that could seat over 200 guests. Olivia looked absolutely thrilled. This is perfect. The coordinator smiled. The total package comes to just under $92,000. I almost laughed. 92. Olivia squeezed my hand. We can do it. I looked at her. Can we? She nodded confidently. You've been saving so much. Not. We've. You've. That single word stayed with me for the rest of the tour. A few days later, my promotion officially took effect. The first larger paycheck hit my account. Before I even got home, Olivia had already sent me links. A more expensive photographer. Custom invitations. Luxury chairs. A live orchestra. Every upgrade added thousands of dollars. I stared at my phone. Not once did she offer to pay for any of it. Not once. That evening, she spread brochures across the dining table. I've been doing the math. If we use your bonus and your raise, we can finally afford everything. I looked at the numbers. According to her plan, nearly every remaining expense would come from my account. Her contribution, almost nothing. I looked up. What about your savings? For the first time, she froze. My what? Your savings. She laughed. I don't really have any. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. She didn't hesitate. She didn't stumble. She lied. As naturally as breathing. I smiled. Oh. I just thought maybe. She interrupted me. You know my salary barely covers my bills. Another lie. Now I knew it. The following Friday, something happened completely by accident. I stopped at a grocery store after work. As I pushed my cart through the produce section, I heard Olivia's voice. She hadn't noticed me. She was standing near the bakery with Emily. I couldn't hear everything. Only fragments. After the wedding, he'll never question it. Everything will already be under my name. Emily looked uncertain. What if he finds out? Olivia rolled her eyes. He won't. Daniel trusts me. He always does. I felt something inside me break. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly, like a glass cracking under pressure. I walked away before they could see me. I didn't buy groceries. I just sat in my car for almost an hour. That night, Olivia curled up next to me on the couch. I've been thinking, what if we buy a house after we're married? I looked at her. A house. She smiled. Our house. I almost asked about the condominium. The one she'd already picked. The one with the $180,000 down payment. Instead, I simply nodded. Sounds nice. She rested her head on my shoulder. I knew you'd agree. The next morning, I made a decision. No more guessing. No more assumptions. If Olivia had spent 2 years building a secret financial life, then I needed to know exactly what she was planning. Not part of it. All of it. That afternoon, I hired a forensic accountant through a lawyer Marcus recommended. Everything was completely legal. I wasn't trying to access her private bank account. I wanted someone to review the financial documents, contracts, and public records connected to our upcoming wedding and any jointly discussed purchases. 3 days later, the accountant called me. I found something unusual. What is it? There are documents showing a reservation agreement on a downtown condominium. My heart started racing. The buyer listed on the paperwork. He paused. Is Olivia? I swallowed hard. What about me? Another pause. Your name doesn't appear anywhere. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. And based on the timeline, she started the purchase process almost 9 months before she agreed to finally set a wedding date. For a long time, I just stared at my phone. 9 months. 9 months before she finally agreed to set a wedding date. She had already started buying a condominium. Not for us. For herself. My name wasn't on a single document. Not as a co-owner. Not as a future spouse. Nothing. It was as if I didn't exist. The accountant continued. There's something else. I closed my eyes. Go ahead. The monthly deposits into her savings account increased significantly around the same time. Can you tell where the money came from? Mostly salary. But there are also regular transfers from another investment account. Investment account. Olivia had investments. She'd spent 2 years telling me we couldn't afford a wedding. Meanwhile, she wasn't just saving. She was growing her money. That evening, she greeted me with a smile. Guess what? What? I found a florist willing to give us a discount. I almost laughed. A discount. She was worried about saving a few $100s, while secretly sitting on nearly $200,000. You okay? She asked. You seem distracted. Just tired. She walked over and wrapped her arms around me. I promise it'll all be worth it. Those words hit differently now. Worth it. For who? The following Saturday, we met with the wedding planner. She spread contracts across the table. The final payment will be due in 3 weeks. The planner looked at both of us. How would you like to split it? Before I could even open my mouth, Olivia answered. Daniel's taking care of it. The planner smiled politely. Perfect. I looked at Olivia. She didn't even ask. She simply volunteered my money. Again. Driving home, I stayed quiet. She eventually noticed. Are you upset? No. You've barely spoken. I'm just thinking. About work. Something like that. She reached over and squeezed my hand. We're almost there. I know it's been expensive, but after we're married, we'll finally build our future together. I looked out the window. She wasn't talking about our future. She already had hers planned. Monday morning, Marcus called. Any updates? I know why she was saving. For what? A condominium. Marcus was silent. Is your name on it? No. Damn. I told him everything. The investment account. The reservation agreement. The secret deposits. When I finished, he said exactly what I had been afraid to hear. Daniel, I don't think she's planning a life with you. I think she's planning to use you to finance the beginning of hers. That sentence stayed in my head all week. Not because it was dramatic. Because it explained everything. Why she insisted on separate finances. Why every wedding expense somehow became mine. Why she encouraged every overtime shift. Why she celebrated my promotion more than I did. It was never about us earning more. It was about me paying more. 3 days later, another surprise arrived. I came home to find Olivia excitedly decorating the living room with wedding magazines. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. I have amazing news. What is it? My parents want to contribute. For a brief second, I actually smiled. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe they wanted to help. Really? She nodded enthusiastically. They're paying for. She looked down at her notes. The wedding favors. I blinked. The favors? Yeah. About $800. Meanwhile, I had already spent over $50,000. That night, after Olivia went to bed, I opened every wedding invoice. Venue. Photography. Flowers. Music. Catering. Decorations. Transportation. My laptop calculated everything. Total paid by me, $58,420. Total paid by Olivia, $0. Not almost zero. Zero. Even the engagement party had been charged to my card. I leaned back in my chair. For 2 years, I hadn't been planning a wedding. I'd been funding someone else's financial strategy. The next afternoon, I received a call from my lawyer. I've reviewed everything. And you aren't married. Which means legally, this is much simpler than most people realize. What do you mean? You don't owe her anything. If you choose to cancel the wedding, the contracts are in your name. The refunds go to you. That was the first good news I'd heard in weeks. How much could I recover? Probably around 80%. 80%. Almost everything I'd worked so hard for. For the first time in days. I felt hope. That evening, Olivia walked into the apartment carrying a bottle of champagne. We should celebrate. What are we celebrating? She smiled. I just got confirmation. Confirmation. The condominium. She stopped. Her eyes widened. For a split second, she forgot she wasn't supposed to say that word. The wedding. I meant the wedding. I stared at her. She laughed nervously. I've got weddings on my mind. Maybe. Or maybe. She'd just made the first real mistake of the past 2 years. I smiled. You're right. We should celebrate. I poured us both a glass. Raised mine. To new beginnings. She smiled and clinked her glass against mine. To our future. I took a sip. But inside, I was already planning how to end ours. And she still had no idea that every refundable payment would be gone before she even realized the wedding was over. Daniel, I don't think she's planning a life with you. I think she's planning to use you to finance the beginning of hers. That sentence stayed in my head all week. Not because it was dramatic, because it explained everything. Why she insisted on separate finances. Why every wedding expense somehow became mine. Why she encouraged every overtime shift. Why she celebrated my promotion more than I did. It was never about us earning more. It was about me paying more. 3 days later, another surprise arrived. I came home to find Olivia excitedly decorating the living room with wedding magazines. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. I have amazing news. What is it? My parents want to contribute. For a brief second, I actually smiled. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe they wanted to help. Really? She nodded enthusiastically. They're paying for. She looked down at her notes. The wedding favors. I blinked. The favors? Yeah. About $800. Meanwhile, I had already spent over $50,000. That night, after Olivia went to bed, I opened every wedding invoice. Venue. Photography. Flowers. Music. Catering. Decorations. Transportation. My laptop calculated everything. Total paid by me, $58,420. Total paid by Olivia, $0. Not almost zero. Zero. Even the engagement party had been charged to my card. I leaned back in my chair. For 2 years, I hadn't been planning a wedding. I'd been funding someone else's financial strategy. The next afternoon, I received a call from my lawyer. I've reviewed everything. And you aren't married. Which means legally, this is much simpler than most people realize. What do you mean? You don't owe her anything. If you choose to cancel the wedding, the contracts are in your name. The refunds go to you. That was the first good news I'd heard in weeks. How much could I recover? Probably around 80%. 80%. Almost everything I'd worked so hard for. For the first time in days. I felt hope. That evening, Olivia walked into the apartment carrying a bottle of champagne. We should celebrate. What are we celebrating? She smiled. I just got confirmation. Confirmation. The condominium. She stopped. Her eyes widened. For a split second, she forgot she wasn't supposed to say that word. The wedding. I meant the wedding. I stared at her. She laughed nervously. I've got weddings on my mind. Maybe. Or maybe. She'd just made the first real mistake of the past 2 years. I smiled. You're right. We should celebrate. I poured us both a glass. Raised mine. To new beginnings. She smiled and clinked her glass against mine. To our future. I took a sip. But inside, I was already planning how to end ours. And she still had no idea that every refundable payment would be gone before she even realized the wedding was over. I thanked him and hung up. For a long time, I simply sat there. The wedding wasn't the finish line. It was the beginning of her financial plan. And I was supposed to finance it. That night, Olivia suggested we celebrate. We're almost married. She cooked my favorite dinner. Lit candles. Played soft music. At one point she smiled and asked, "Can you believe everything we've built together?" I looked around the apartment. The furniture. The pictures. The engagement photos hanging on the wall. I believed we were building it together. She smiled without realizing what I'd actually said. The following morning, I met my lawyer one last time. He handed me a folder. Everything's ready. If she tries to claim you promised financial support, she has no legal standing. If she demands reimbursement, She'll have to explain why she contributed virtually nothing. I nodded. Then he smiled. I have one piece of advice. What's that? Don't argue. Let the evidence do the talking. 3 days before the wedding, Olivia received a phone call. I could hear only her side of the conversation. Yes, I understand. No, he still doesn't know. She laughed. Trust me. Daniel never checks anything. My chest tightened. She really believed that. After hanging up, she walked into the living room. My mom. Everything okay? Yep. Just wedding stuff. Another lie. At this point, she probably didn't even notice when she was lying anymore. The rehearsal dinner arrived. Friends. Family. Laughter. Champagne. Everyone kept congratulating us. Olivia looked absolutely radiant. She held my hand the entire evening. Every time someone complimented us, she'd smile and say, I can't wait to marry him. If anyone had looked closely, they would have noticed I never said it back. Near the end of the evening, Olivia's father pulled me aside. I want to thank you. For what? For taking such good care of my daughter. I forced a smile. I've tried. He sighed. I know weddings are expensive. I appreciate everything you've done. Something about his expression felt genuine. For the first time, I realized he probably didn't know the full truth either. He hugged me. I hope you two have a wonderful future. I wanted to tell him everything. Instead, I simply said, so do I. The wedding was less than 24 hours away. That night, Olivia fell asleep almost immediately. I stayed awake, looking at the ceiling, thinking about the last 2 years. The overtime, the missed vacations, the motorcycle I'd sold, the weekends I'd sacrificed. None of it hurt anymore. What hurt was realizing I'd been giving everything to someone who had been protecting only herself. Around midnight, my phone vibrated. It was an email from one of the vendors. Refund processed successfully. I smiled. Then another email arrived. Venue cancellation confirmed. Exactly as planned. The ballroom would still be open. The guests would still arrive. But there wouldn't be a wedding. Only answers. I looked over at Olivia sleeping peacefully beside me. She had no idea that in less than 24 hours, the life she'd been planning for 2 years would disappear in front of everyone she knew. I woke up before sunrise. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. Not happy. Not excited. Just certain. The decision had already been made. There was nothing left to think about. Olivia was practically glowing. She walked around the apartment in her wedding robe, smiling at everything. I can't believe today's finally here. Neither could I. She wrapped her arms around me. I love you. I smiled politely. Have a great morning. She frowned slightly. That's it. I kissed her forehead. I'll see you at the venue. She laughed. Nervous. A little. If only she knew why. The ballroom looked exactly as we'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers. Fresh flowers. Live musicians warming up. Nearly 150 guests slowly filled the room. Friends. Family. Coworkers. Everyone believed they were about to witness a wedding. Only 2 people knew the truth. Me and my lawyer. Marcus stood beside me. You ready? I nodded. As I'll ever be. The ceremony began. The music started. Everyone stood. Olivia walked down the aisle wearing a beautiful white dress. People smiled. Some were already crying. She looked at me with complete confidence. She honestly believed everything was going according to plan. She reached the altar. The officiant smiled. "We are gathered here today." I gently raised my hand. "I'm sorry. But before we begin, I need everyone to hear something." The room fell silent. Olivia looked confused. "What are you doing?" I picked up a microphone. "I've spent the last 2 years believing I was building a future with the woman I loved. I worked overtime. I sold my motorcycle. I canceled vacations. I paid for almost every part of this wedding." Murmurs spread across the room. Olivia grabbed my arm. "Daniel, stop." I calmly stepped away. "No. It's my turn." I looked toward our families. 2 weeks ago, I discovered Olivia has approximately $180,000 in personal savings. Her face instantly lost all color. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. I continued. "For 2 years, she repeatedly told me we couldn't afford to get married. She told me we needed more time, more savings, more overtime." I looked directly at her. She never once mentioned she already had enough money to help. Olivia quickly spoke. "I was saving for us." I nodded. "Really?" I opened the folder my lawyer had prepared. "Then, why is the condominium reservation only in your name?" Complete silence. I held up the documents. The purchase process began. 9 months before you agreed to set a wedding date. Someone in the audience whispered. "Oh my God." Olivia's mother slowly stood up. "Olivia, what is he talking about?" Olivia looked around desperately. "It's not like that." "It absolutely is," I replied. I handed copies of the paperwork to both sets of parents. The apartment, the investment account, the down payment. My name appears nowhere. Her father looked down at the documents, then back at his daughter. "You told us you two were buying your first home together." She couldn't answer. I wasn't finished. I also discovered that almost every wedding expense was paid by me. I looked toward the guests. Venue, catering, photography, music, flowers, honeymoon, everything. I paused. Olivia's contribution. I looked down at the final page. $0. The ballroom became eerily quiet. Then something unexpected happened. Olivia's father walked toward me. Not angrily. Slowly. He looked at the paperwork again. Then at his daughter. "Is this true?" Tears filled her eyes. She whispered. I was going to tell him. "When?" No answer. "After the wedding." Still silence. He closed his eyes. Then quietly said, "I'm disappointed in you." Those 6 words hurt her more than anything I'd said. Olivia suddenly turned toward me. "You embarrassed me." I shook my head. "No. I told the truth. You embarrassed yourself." She started crying. "You ruined everything." I looked around the ballroom. "No. I stopped you before you ruined my future." The officiant quietly closed his book. "I don't believe." "There will be a ceremony today." A few guests awkwardly stood. Then more. Within minutes, people began leaving. Some came over to shake my hand. Others hugged me. Several apologized for what had happened. Marcus simply smiled. "Proud of you." As the ballroom emptied, only Olivia remained, still wearing her wedding dress, still holding the bouquet, still staring at the floor. My lawyer walked over. The refunds have all been finalized. I smiled. Good. He handed me one last envelope. Inside was a summary. Nearly every refundable payment had already been returned. Months of overtime. Saved. Not lost. Before leaving, I walked over to Olivia one last time. She looked up. I really did love you. I believed she meant it. In her own way. But love without honesty was never enough. I placed my wedding ring on the table beside her bouquet. I hope one day you understand that partnerships aren't built on secrets. Then I turned around and walked away. 6 months later, I finally bought another motorcycle. Booked the vacation I'd postponed twice. Started spending weekends with friends instead of working overtime. Life felt lighter. One afternoon, Marcus asked, "Do you ever regret canceling the wedding?" I thought about it for a moment. If I'd married her, I would have spent years wondering why I was never enough. I smiled. Instead, I learned the truth before signing a single paper. Sometimes the biggest heartbreak isn't losing the person you plan to marry. Sometimes it's realizing you almost married someone who never planned to build the same future you did. Looking back, calling off that wedding wasn't the worst day of my life. It was the day I finally stopped paying for someone else's dream and started building my own.